It all started on a rainy day in the Loud family household. It was the beginning of the school year, and Lori was home alone. Lori invited her friends over to her house since there was nothing to do. They watched some TV and then went onto Lori's laptop just to chill out and watch some videos. After a while, Lori and her friends started to get bored. Then one of her friends started talking about the dark web. He said that his friends told him about it, and then he told Lori about it. That's when Lori's other friends started talking about how there was a difference between the deep web and the dark web. And the dark web was much creepier than the deep web. Then both of them started telling Lori about how there were tons of illegal and sick and brutal kind of stuff. One of them said that it had dark rooms and websites where you can buy illegal drugs, fake IDs, and a lot of stuff like that. As Lori was gathering up all the information, she could already tell that the dark web has a lot of extremely messed up garbage and sick people who do horrible things out there on this planet. Then the other friend told Lori that you have to access it on a very different browser called the Tor browser. So Lori was setting it all up and then downloading a bunch of different softwares for safety reasons. So it was past 9:30 p.m. when both of Lori's friends had to go back home. And it was just Lori all alone again. Lori finally installed everything and was ready, but she made sure that she was safe by typing in the Google search bar, "What is my ID?" And sure enough, it was all the same in one piece. Then Lori went onto the browser. Then off she went to look for something safe and local. There were lots of links, but Lori didn't actually click on them though, only because she wanted to be as safe and secure as possible. She was reading the tiles though, and there was a lot of sick stuff like bloody murders and torture. She also saw some websites where you can buy the illegal stuff. Lori was looking around for at least 2 hours. As she was searching more and more, that's when Lori realized that she was getting deeper and deeper into the website. And there was a lot more sick stuff and stuff I probably shouldn't tell you guys about in this Loud House horror story. Then Lori found a strange link. It didn't seem bad at all. It was literally just titled, "What is the dark web?" Lori just thought that it would be a tutorial video telling her all about it, so stupidly she clicked on it. Then Lori's computer froze, and she couldn't do anything. She couldn't even turn it off. And then a black box appeared on her screen, but she couldn't close it though. And she still couldn't turn off her computer. Then Lori noticed she was in a chat room. She saw that people were saying stuff like, "Come on already," and "Hurry up." That's when Lori realized that the black screen was none other than a turned off camera. Then it suddenly turned on. Lori saw a giant tall man standing in his bedroom. She couldn't see his face though, and he wasn't standing close to the camera. Then he walked slowly towards it and picked it up. Then he slowly brought the camera up to his head. He was wearing a very creepy monster mask. Honestly, to Lori, it was scary and shocking. If you go onto Google Images and look up devil monster mask, that's the one he was wearing. He turned around and started walking out of his house and then to a house next door. He then turned on night vision and slowly walked into the house up to a bedroom. There was a 4-year-old kid sleeping in his bed, with his mother in a rocking chair, where they both slept. He slowly walked up to the mother, put his camera in front of her, and the next thing he did was he covered her face with an old, dirty hand towel. After a while, the mother was out cold. And then he picked up the sleeping 4-year-old child and held him to the camera. And then he gently put him under the covers. At that point, Lori started raging and screaming at her laptop, screaming at the psycho. As he was staring at the child, sleeping under the covers in his bed, Lori was still screaming at it. It was like he heard her, though, and people on the chat were cheering him on to keep going and do more. But Lori just couldn't take it anymore, and she tried to turn off her laptop, but it wouldn't even turn off. Then he took his camera and picked up the mother and the child and took them both to the basement, where he proceeded to cut off their body parts while they were both still alive. Then he put belts on them and cleaned them both up. Then he bandaged them both up and placed the mom back in the rocking chair and placed the child back in his bed. He then walked into the parents' room where the father was sleeping and just stared at him for 20 minutes. Then Lori yelled at the screen saying, "You are literally sick! Just literally sick!" out loud, and again the man looked at the camera, but this time he slowly tilted his head. It was like he was staring at Lori again. He was staring at the camera for like an hour. Then he walked toward it and picked it up, and then stared at the lens for another hour. Then he finally turned it off. And Lori finally had control of her computer again, and she just turned it off. Lori could not believe what she just saw. It was sick and disgusting. It was way past 10 p.m. and Lori just sat there, staring at her turned-off laptop. But then her computer suddenly turned on again, and it instantly went to another video. It was that same creepy guy again, and he was staring directly at the camera, and Lori was the only viewer. It looked like he was standing outside of a house that looked oddly familiar. He put his hand over the camera, and Lori heard him walking slowly. Then he put the camera over to a window, and he started recording someone. Lori's heart leaped out of her chest. He was recording her! Lori turned to the window and saw an 8-foot-tall man outside wearing that monster mask. He then put the camera into his bag and just stood there, and Lori just stood there. She couldn't move at all. She was just frozen in fear. Then he took out a machete and raised it up while tilting his head. But by some miracle, a van was driving up her street, and the monster man took off. The van pulled up into her driveway. It was the rest of the Loud family. Lori wasn't sure why, but she didn't tell anyone. Not even Bobby about this. 2 weeks later, Lori was about to pick up Lenny from work when she noticed something inside the mailbox. It was an envelope. Lori opened it up. It was a yellow, ripped and crumpled up paper. It said, "You're lucky your family came home, you little jerk." Lori didn't show or tell anyone, not even Bobby. And yeah, she agreed with him. Lori was lucky that her family came home.